Anger. We all feel it. It's this incredibly powerful emotion. But is it always a bad thing? In this explainer, we're going to dig into that exact question, looking at anger through a Christian theological lens.
So, let's just dive right in with the big one. The question I think a lot of us have probably wrestled with. Is the simple act of feeling angry, in and of itself, wrong?
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to ask if anger is a sin or just an emotion. Then, we'll get into the real dangers of unchecked wrath, walk through a practical Christian approach to managing it, and wrap up with the absolutely essential role of humility in all of this.
All right, first things first, let's tackle that really common misconception head-on. Is the feeling of anger the actual problem we need to solve? You know, this is where it gets super interesting. The book of Ephesians has this fascinating take. It doesn't say, hey, don't you dare get angry. It says, be angry, but do not sin. That tiny little word, but, well, it changes everything. It draws a clear line in the sand right from the start. So here's that line in the sand. On one side, you've got anger, the emotion, totally natural, right? It's a response to injustice or to getting hurt. But on the other side, you've got wrath, and that's a different beast entirely. Wrath is the destructive behavior, the harmful action that can erupt when anger is left unchecked. So the initial spark isn't the sin, it's what you do with the fire that counts. And that, right there, is where the real trouble starts. It's not the flash of anger you feel in the moment. It's what happens when you hold on to it. That's what the Bible warns about, this ongoing anger that just sits and, well, it festers. It turns into bitterness, and that's when it starts causing serious harm. So what happens when that anger boils over into unchecked wrath? Well, the consequences, as we're about to see, can be absolutely devastating.
And this is a pretty sobering look at the fallout, isn't it? It goes so much deeper than just physical violence. We're talking about those hurtful words you can't take back, the passive-aggressive stuff that just poisons a relationship, and the slow erosion of trust that creates these really toxic environments for everyone. Let's zoom in on this idea of spiritual harm for a second. It's not some abstract concept. It's about the very real power of our words. The Bible talks about how the tongue can either bless or curse, and when it's fueled by bitter anger, our words become weapons. They inflict deep wounds, not just on other people, but on ourselves too.
Okay, so we've laid out the problem, we've seen the potential damage, but it is not all doom and gloom. The good news is there's a really clear path forward, a practical 4-step guide to actually handling anger in a constructive way. And this process is just so practical. Step 1, figure out what's really making you angry before you just fly off the handle. Step 2, take a time out. Just step away, breathe, let your brain catch up. Step 3, communicate, but do it with respect. And then step 4, and honestly, this can be the toughest one, forgive and let it go. You have to release those grudges because holding on to them is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. And what's so important to get here is that this isn't just some clever psychological trick. This entire framework is designed to manage emotion in a way that lines up with core Christian values, things like respect, reconciliation, and ultimately healing. But you know, none of these steps, none of this, really works without one foundational attitude. It's the secret ingredient that makes the whole thing possible: humility. I mean, think about it. When you're furious, what's the first thing you feel? Totally justified, right? You get that surge of self-righteousness where you are 100% correct and they are 100% wrong. That feeling of pride, that's often the biggest roadblock to actually fixing anything. So humility comes in as the perfect antidote to that pride. It's choosing to respond with compassion, choosing to listen, even when every fiber of your being is screaming that you've been wronged, instead of just digging your heels in on being right. It completely changes the posture of the conversation. And wow, this teaching from Jesus, this is really the ultimate expression of that principle, isn't it? Love your enemies. It's such a radical idea to actively want what's best for someone who has hurt you. It is the exact opposite of what raw, unchecked anger tells us to do. And let's be super clear about something. Humility is not weakness. It does not mean you let people walk all over you or that you just tolerate injustice. Not at all. It's about controlled strength. It means you are in the driver's seat, choosing a constructive response instead of a destructive reaction. So that leaves us with this final thought to chew on. If anger is really just a signal, an alarm bell telling us that something is wrong, then how can we learn to transform that energy? How can we turn it from a destructive wildfire into a powerful catalyst for positive change in our own lives and in our relationships?